Let me ask you a question. Who are you spending the most time with? And here's an even more important question. Who are you becoming because of who you're spending time with? Because relationships are powerful. The people around you can encourage you, challenge you, sharpen you, and help you become the person God's called you to be. But the wrong relationships can also distract you, discourage you, drain you, and slowly pull you away from the direction you know you need to go. And sometimes one of the hardest halftime adjustments we ever have to make is not changing what we're doing. It's changing who we're doing life with. That doesn't mean that you stop loving people. It doesn't mean that we think we're any better than anyone else. It simply means we recognize that everybody can be loved, but everybody doesn't need the same level of access to our lives. And if you're serious about where you're going, you've got to be honest about who's going with you. Proverbs 13, verse 20 says, He that walketh with wise men shall be wise, but a companion of fools shall be destroyed. That's pretty straightforward. The Bible's telling us that people we walk with influence the direction of our lives. And then in 1 Corinthians 15:33, it gives us another warning. Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners. I want you to notice those first three words. Be not deceived. Why would Scripture say that? Because apparently this is an area where we can deceive ourselves. We can convince ourselves that people around us aren't affecting us. We say, well, that's just the way they are. We've been friends forever. I don't participate in what they're doing. They're not changing me. But Scripture warns us not to fool ourselves. The people around us influence us. Maybe not overnight, maybe not dramatically, but little by little, conversation by conversation, decision by decision, they can be influencing the direction of our lives. Here's where relationships get difficult. Sometimes we've outgrown environments that we're still emotionally attached to. There are people in our lives because of history, not necessarily because of destiny. We grew up together. We worked together. We played ball together. We went to school together. We've known each other for 20 or 30 years. And because somebody has been a part of our past, we automatically assume they deserve the same position in our future. But that's not always true. There may come a season when you realize, I love this person, but I cannot continue allowing this relationship to have the same influence over my life. Maybe every conversation is negative. Maybe they're constantly criticizing other people. Maybe they're always telling you why something won't work. Maybe they're encouraging habits that you're trying to leave behind. Maybe you're trying to strengthen your marriage, grow closer to God, improve your health, build a business, get your finances under control, or pursue something bigger in your life. But every time you're around certain people, you find yourself moving backward instead of forward. Now that's a problem, because you cannot continuously surround yourself with people headed in one direction and expect yourself to consistently travel in another. I believe that we need to understand something important about relationships. Not every relationship has the same assignment. Jesus loved everybody, but Jesus didn't give everybody the same access. There were crowds who followed Jesus. There were disciples. There were 12 apostles. And then there were Peter, James, and John who were with him during some incredibly significant moments. Different people had different levels of proximity. And I think there's wisdom in that for us. You can love someone without allowing them to influence every area of your life. Some people belong in the crowd. Some belong closer. And a very small number of people should have permission to speak deeply into your decision, your marriage, your finances, your faith, your business, and your future. The question becomes, who has earned that position? So pay attention to what relationships produce. Jesus taught in Matthew 7, verse 20, "Wherefore by their fruits you shall know them." We usually apply that scripture to identify people by their actions. But there's another question worth asking. What fruit is the relationship producing in me? When you're around certain people, what happens? Do you become more optimistic or more negative? More disciplined or less disciplined? More faithful or more doubtful? More grateful or more critical? More focused or more distracted? Do you leave conversations energized about your future, or do you leave drained? That's worth paying attention to, because healthy relationships don't always tell you what you want to hear. Sometimes the healthiest friend that you've got is the one willing to tell you you're wrong. You need to fix this. You're better than this. You need to apologize. You've been talking about this goal long enough. It's time to do something. Proverbs 27:17 says, "Iron sharpeneth iron, so a man sharpeneth the countenance of his friend." Iron sharpening iron isn't always comfortable. There is friction involved. When iron sharpens iron, sparks fly, but the result is improvement. You don't just need cheerleaders. You need people who will sharpen you. Now let's bring this into the locker room. Imagine it's halftime. You're looking at the scoreboard and you don't like what you see. You're not where you thought you would be financially. Your health isn't where you want it. Your marriage needs attention. Your relationship with God needs to become stronger. Your business needs to grow. Your attitude needs adjusting. Your habits need changing. So you start making adjustments. But there's one thing you haven't evaluated: your roster. Every coach understands this. Sometimes the game plan isn't the only thing that needs adjusting. Sometimes you've got to change who's on the field. And it isn't much different. It's actually pretty simple to figure out when you ask yourself, who is helping me or trying to help me become the person God has called me to become? Then ask yourself, who constantly pulls me away from that person? That doesn't mean you have to make some dramatic announcement. You definitely don't have to post anything on social media. You don't have to call anybody and tell them, hey, you've been cut off from the team. Sometimes the healthiest relationship adjustments is simply changing proximity. Less time, less access, less influence, different conversations, different boundaries, and then intentionally investing more time in relationships that strengthen the direction you're trying to go. Now, here's 3 relationship adjustments I want you to consider. First, evaluate your circle. Look at the 5 or 6 people you spend the most time communicating with. And then ask yourself, what direction are they moving? Because whether you realize or not, you're probably being influenced by that direction. The second is adjust access. You don't necessarily have to eliminate people from your life, but you may need to change how much influence they have. Because remember, love doesn't require unlimited access. You can care about someone while establishing healthy boundaries. And then third, add people who sharpen you. This is the part that people sometimes forget. Don't just remove negative influences, replace them with positive ones. Find people who are where you want to go. People with strong marriages, people who handle money wisely, people who take care of their health, people who are growing spiritually, people who are building successful businesses, people who challenge you to become better. If you're always the smartest person in the room, find another room occasionally. If you're always the most disciplined person in your circle, expand your circle. If you're always the person encouraging everybody else, find some people who encourage you. Here's your halftime challenge for this week. Take out a piece of paper and write down the names of the 5 people who have the greatest influence on your life right now. Not necessarily your 5 favorite people, your 5 biggest influences. Then, beside each name, ask yourself 3 questions. Does this person encourage the person I'm trying to become? Does this relationship strengthen or weaken the areas of my life that I'm trying to improve? And then, do I need more proximity, the same proximity, or less proximity to this person? And then be willing to make an adjustment. Because here's something I want you to remember. Your relationships don't just influence where you are, they influence where you're going. So choose wisely. If this message has made you think of somebody, don't immediately send them the video. Maybe this message isn't about their adjustment, maybe it's about yours. So take some time this week and evaluate the relationships in your life. And if you're realizing that there are areas where you need to make some changes, remember what halftime adjustments is all about. You don't have to keep running the same plays just because you've been running the same plays for years. You can evaluate, you can adjust, and you can move forward. If this message has helped you, subscribe to Halftime Adjustments YouTube channel. Like this video and share it with somebody who's seriously becoming better in the second half of their life. And I'd love for you to leave a comment. What's one quality you believe every healthy relationship should have? Halftime isn't the end of the game. It's your opportunity to make the adjustment that can change the outcome. I'll see you next time.